I feel that way as well. You know, I used to watch the Majority Report back in the day. I think it's Trump. I think after Biden got in office, I think that a lot of these lefties just went insane.
And two, Emma, who I thought was a friend of Anna Kasparian, saying that she got titillated by being victimized in a crime that was a sexual assault is absolutely horrible. Now, like I said,
Speaking of this kind of place, I actually didn't really want to watch this in full because it's just a bit like, you know, a bit too political for my taste these days. Not really a big fan of politics these days. But I did watch this a bit earlier. I just wanted to show you this bit. Because I didn't know this was like a problem in the US. This is crazy.
But overall, I agree with Sean. He creates content on YouTube under Actual Justice Warrior if you want to check out his content. But what he says there is totally true.
Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about the second half of this Majority Report video, where they get into squatting after they completely embarrass themselves on the issue of crime, because they try to defend squatting, but in the most cowardly, weak-willed way humanly possible. They never actually address a single case that's actually going on that has made this an issue. Instead, they talk about these abstract concepts that are not happening, pivot to some dope in Australia who's advocating for people to steal homes, and this is because the Majority Report are propagandists, and they know for a fact if they presented any of the actual cases that have people animated out there to the public, they would be indefensible. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money.
Yeah, Red Bread. I feel that way as well. You know, I used to watch the Majority Report back in the day, and, you know, it was lefty kind of toned, but like they were quite sensible, and they seemed to... Do you know what it is? I think it's Trump. I think after Biden got in office, I think that a lot of these lefties just went fucking insane. I think Bernie Sanders not getting the nomination really fucked people's heads up, and it led to people become very nihilistic and disillusioned. And you know, and they've just gone off and spun into crazy fucking angles.
Okay.
And remind you that on Saturday, April 27th in Austin, Texas, I will be at Mindsfest. Link to tickets, top of the description, promo code AJW for 20% off. Now, I want to start with a quick correction. In the beginning of the previous video, they were actually interacting with a caller, a guy called...
No, I don't think I've shifted right at all. I haven't shifted right in the slightest. I haven't moved anywhere. They've moved.
Dave from Jamaica, and I thought he was so dumb as a person, it might have been a troll caller. So right off the bat, they opened this video with a caller, and the caller is speaking with a Jamaican accent, but
Like, I'm sorry, right? Is it right-wing? Is it now a right-wing position, okay, to think that if you own a property, someone shouldn't be able to break into it and claim ownership and refuse to move out, and you only get a short period of time to resolve it before you then have to serve eviction proceedings, which can take years? Is that a right-wing position now? Really?
I have to be honest, after listening to the entirety of this person's call, I think that maybe, just maybe, this guy might be a troll. But I have been told time and time again that this is a legitimate person calling in, and it is possible that who they're referring to in this phone call as the person who's covering crime and squatting issues is actually Anna Kasparian, which makes Emma's comments about people being victimized by crime, getting titillated by that victimization, all the more worse.
But it's sort you're right, Bender, but it's also people like get titillated by it, to be honest with you, that haven't experienced it before.
Yeah, just for clarity, if this is about Anna, one, it's cowardly for them to talk crap about her for 30 minutes and not name her, and two, Emma, who I thought was a friend of Anna Kasparian, saying that she got titillated by being victimized in a crime that was a sexual assault is absolutely horrible. Now, like I said, you can watch the full video about the crime portion of this segment linked in the description, but let's get on to the squatting issue, because these guys are showing their infinite cowardice throughout the whole course of this section of the video.
But people see homeless people, how people see homeless people, and they feel unsafe. So then they correlate that immediately with crime. And so that I really do think, and then that's why we probably see this, I'm seeing this everywhere. Mainstream media is going wild with this. I heard on like the radio, like one of the morning zoo shows the other day, the whole squatting issue.
Okay, but how do I make money off depressed people?
I thought of a new change in the justice system to end crime. A life sentence should include listening to Johnny Guitar on repeat. Big Iron.
Thank you.
Symbol,
for the super chat.
Symbol,
forever. There is no squatters' rights law in New York.
So first of all, I just want to point out that Matt Binder, absolute buffoon, idiot in every possible way, as I proved in the previous video, and a simple Google search will tell you that yes, there is a thing called squatters' rights in New York law. This is...
So the funny thing is like they're just factually wrong on the law of this. There's something called adverse possession. Which is absolutely like what we would refer to colloquially as squatters' rights. Okay. And the way it works from what he's saying here is crazy.
The adverse possession statutes, anyone can look them up. And yes, they're in all 50 states. But what makes this particular case even more egregious for Binder to talk about is that we actually had a 2019 amendment, 2 amendments, that have created the problem that we're seeing right here, where people are able to squat with just 30 days, and it's almost impossible to get these people out of your property without going through the lengthy eviction process. So let me break that down for you as well. So again, anybody can look this up, but it's 2 changes in city law from 2019 that now dictate that landlords cannot boot a squatter without a special proceeding and have to file a lawsuit in order to get them out. And these amendments are actually quite simple. The New York Real Property Actions Proceedings Law number 711 was amended to say that occupants of a dwelling or housing accommodation can't be kicked out without, quote, a special proceeding. Now, the reason this small, seemingly innocuous tweak has led to such problems is because there's a huge backlog in tenant court, and this possibly has to do with the fact that we had the eviction moratorium and people just stopped paying the rent during that period.
But no, he's explaining that the issue that you've got is that you've got a 30-day window, and because it doesn't go through the system within 30 days, it creates further issues that you then have to contend with and deal with. And he gives a couple of examples.
Period of time. So even if you catch one of these would-be squatters in your property before the 30-day time period, like that case in Queens, New York, where there was somebody who broke in to this woman's deceased mother's home.
We have to start at the beginning. Like the hardest question is...
Well, yeah, because I don't know if we'll get to the bit, because I only wanted to watch a little bit of this. But he speaks about how the law in principle is good because, let's say, for example, that you have a property that's dilapidated. Someone owns it somewhere. Some fucking Chinese businessman or something owns it, right? But it's dilapidated and it's not being upkept. If you move in, right, and no one realizes and you do it up and you do the work, it would be wrong for the owner who hasn't put any fucking money into the upkeep of it to come along and just take that from you and take advantage of all the kind of work that you've done, to put it very simply, right? So it's like there's some utility to the law, but people are taking advantage of it to break into a property and then basically create legal turmoil for the person to remove them that costs them money and time, you know, which you'll see from here.
How do you say your name? We met Adele Andaloro outside the home her parents left her in Flushing, Queens. She's in the process of selling it.
No, he left it.
But she's been locked out. She claims squatters moved in on February 6th and refused to leave.
What's it like being here knowing you can't go inside of your own home? It's enraging. It really is.
In New York, squatters have rights after 30 days.
By the time that someone does their investigation and they do their work and their job, we'll be well over the 30 days, and this man will have stolen my home.
You end up in a situation where the police can't adjudicate it on the fly, so they end up telling you to go to court, but your first court date is after the 30-day period, and then you have to go through eviction proceedings that take multiple years. So that woman who was arrested...
Well, no. It's not to say that like it is free game for any fucking property, but it's to do more so with the idea that you would live somewhere and do it up, right? And if someone has got a property and it falls into disrepair and it's dilapidated and it's an eyesore on the community, you know, it's to deal with that sort of situation, you know, not what is being described here.
For changing the locks on her own property, did so within 30 days, but it didn't matter due to the fact that you required this special proceeding. On top of that, what they won't tell you, because they don't cover any individual case, is that that man on the local news segment, Brian Rodriguez, who said that he wanted some payment for the work.
He didn't show me a lease.
This is a bill.
A bill for work he says he had done to the house. He didn't show police a lease either.
Fucking hell, man.
No. He's got no documentation.
So how does this all end then? When do you leave?
The way it ends is either she pays me my money that I put into the house, pay me the money, and I'll leave, or send me to court, and we deal with the judge in court. It's that simple.
Is trying to extort her for $18,000.
Squatter Brian Rodriguez demanded an $18,000 ransom to move out the 4-bedroom, $1 million house he claimed rights to, with cops even handcuffing the rightful owner when she showed up. I mean, is that not crazy? Like, this is not their fucking property, and they're able to, you know, have this series of events occur.
Now, of course, they're not going to cover somebody breaking into a dead relative's home, stealing it, changing the locks, and trying to extort a homeowner when they're trying to sell it, because they're trying to pretend this away. But Binder, of course, dead wrong right here, embarrassingly so, doesn't understand that, of course, every state has adverse possession laws, and specifically in New York City, this is why we're seeing problems, because some of these tenant rights kick in 30 days.
There's no like actual like squatters' rights in New York, at least. There should be, but
to the extent that it's anywhere, it's...
Dude, it's so, oh my God, man. It's just, what really winds me up about this shit is just the sheer ideological presentation, right? They're not actually looking into the facts of the matter. They're not actually looking into the details and coming to reasonable conclusions, even taking into account their personal perspective, right? they're just thinking, well, I want it to be this way, so it is this way because that's my ideology, you know? And they just lie. They fucking lie about it too. And also, Stylo's right as well. He literally just did the thing. He literally just did the thing. It's not happening. But then he said, well, there should be squatters' rights law. So he's saying it's not happening, but if it was, it would be a good thing anyway. So what's the fucking point in arguing the toss then?
Because the alternative is brutality that people...
Wait, are we back in 1 sec? I'm freebooting. I'm freebooting.
Like, that's why squatters laws exist in like
I'm freebooting.
It's because like otherwise you just can't, because we're so used to enforcing like bending society towards the capitalist needs now that we can't even fathom how these sorts of rights could have ever been enshrined for people that just need shelter.
So this absolute doofus from behind the camera, I've been informed, is also named Matt. I believe his name is Matt Leach, and he's like, listen, the reason why we have these all the way back to England is because we have to fight back against the brutality of the capitalist system. Now, of course, these rights actually predate the United Kingdom's capitalist economy. They go back to feudal times, so ridiculously stupid point in every possible way. But again, I'm waiting for them to bring up a single case, a single modern case that people are covering. They won't do that because they're too cowardly to do so.
So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
Being arrested.
For what?
For being in my own home.
And where's your lease?
She's fighting the house. It's not her house anymore.
My deed is current and legal.
Arrested for unlawful eviction. She changed the locks on a man who claims he lives there.
While they pretend that these rights don't exist, but they should exist, and this is totally a non-problem, even though we can all see it being covered in our day-to-day lives in the media, and we see the real people who are being extorted by these particular schemes.
I mean, even the phrasing, squatters versus tenants' rights, but they're one and the same. It's just one is used to say, look at this delinquent over here.
Now, of course, Emma, the silver spoon brat of this show, has decided to say, listen, squatters' rights and tenant rights are one and the same, and look at the language that they're using, because you know how the left operates. Anytime there's something that they don't like, they just want to change the words around it because that will solve the problem. But the thing is, Emma, they're not the same. They're actually quite different. That's the point. And in fact, if you look at the different various proposals in order to address this situation of these scammers stealing properties from people, the basics are to distinguish between them and regular ordinary tenants, requiring them to show proof.
Okay, I just want to show you this bit as well, because this bit is fucking insane.
Possible, run up the cost on the legitimate homeowner because these are extortion schemes. Now remember, we covered a case out in Douglas in New York, the case where an elderly couple bought a home for their child who is an adult child with Down syndrome, and the reason that they bought it, according to the local news reports, is because they're expecting to pass away at some point in time.
Hey, that was such a quack. Thanks for the membership.
Their kid with Down syndrome move into the brother's home who lives in the same neighborhood.
Dayjuice Main
The house
became
came
a
with
member.
something unexpected. A man living in their home who they say refuses to leave.
We couldn't believe it. We could not believe it.
His name's Brett Flores.
They cannot come here early when I'm not here. They have keys.
Casey Anderson
This is what
became
happened when
a
the landlords
member.
tried to enter with an insurance inspector. They say Flores called the cops on them, even though they say they gave him 10-day notice.
He wasn't a renter. Never. You didn't sign documents that said, we have a tenant.
Not sorry
Court
became a
documents detailing
member.
Flores' own words why he's there. A signed statement says he was hired by the former homeowner as his caretaker, who was paid $3,000 a week, and his employment ended in January of last year when the man died.
became a
He
member.
claims he has a license to stay in the house from the previous owner.
What a lot of people don't realize is in New York, squatters have rights after 30 days.
30 days. How can you have rights if you have no lease, you're not paying rent?
However, they can't do
Camp
that because a man called Brett
301
Flores, who
became
according
a
to his
member.
own court documents, says that he has a right to stay in the property rent-free because he was a caretaker, allegedly, to the previous homeowner, refused...
Like, this is the thing. Okay, we don't need to... I think the point has been made. But, like... It's just that leftoids will sit there on their show and they'll just lie. They'll just fucking lie about shit, you know? It's just crazy. Like, they say, oh no, it's just a cultural thing and it's just to kind of titillate people. And it's like, I'm sure, yeah, some people want to present it that way, right? But doesn't that then make it more relevant for you to be honest and critical when necessary of it, you know? And that way, you're having a more balanced perspective. Not to just, well, literally say, well, it's not happening, and if it was a good thing. Why don't you pause the video? Normally I do. Was it too loud then? Oh, it's probably a bit loud. I'll turn it down. I consider myself a lefty and would consider this an abuse of the legal system to exploit others.
Wonderful.
Well, yeah, of
But
course.
how do I make money off depressed people?
Think of the
However, it is
$5.
that the guy on Majority Report is named Leach.
I mean, yeah, it's and listen, I'm not going to get into gender stuff, okay? Don't worry. Relax. I'm not going to get into the gender shit. But Yeah, they had like a complete fucking ideologue on to discuss the Cass report. The majority report cannot survive unless it creates a hermetically sealed universe in which its audience's priors are constantly reinforced. No meaningful dissent allowed. So they had Erin Reed on to discuss the Cass report, and that will be it for their coverage of the subject. Misinformation in the breadtube universe is a big problem. Okay. Listen, okay? I disavow. I disavow. I disavow. Giga Chad trans woman. Listen, I don't care. Listen, I just look. I'm not going to talk about trans issue today, okay? But it's just true. It's just true. This Cash report thing. I will listen to Jesse Single's podcast preview earlier, talking a bit about it, and you know, Jesse Single, this guy here, and he's just correct. He's just absolutely correct and right about all this shit. And the lefties are wrong. The leftoids that are pushing it without question are just totally and utterly wrong, and it's so obvious. Had enough gender shit yesterday with that rancid femboy froyo. It is a bit annoying when, you know, you give someone your platform to talk about something and they just fuck around. It's just not worth your time. It is a bit annoying, but it is what it is. It is what it is. That guy was insufferable.